Hey, what's up Bammers? Mustiaki here, creator of iPotaboy. Welcome to this first video of how to BAM's Mailbag. Now Mailbag is the new weekly show where you can send in all the questions that you have about making manga and I will be answering them on this show. Now the main shows will still continue, so don't worry, but they take a lot more time planning them out and making them. So in the meantime, to make the waiting a bit more comfortable, we have this weekly mailbag show to cover that up. Now if you have any questions, you can send them at any moment to this address, info@howtobam.com. You can also find the link in the description. Every week I will pick a few of your questions out and answering them on this show. With that being said, let's start with the first How to BAM's mailbag show.
Oi, 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 is that the mail?
Okay, the first question of this week is from Nikhil Ravikumar, who writes, I like the first episode. When's the next one coming out? Also, I have a question. Okay, let me answer this part first. I get this question a lot and with good reason. I actually answered this question in the heads up video, in the heads update video a couple of days ago. What I want to make sure of is that once I start uploading another video, I can keep it rolling on a weekly basis, instead of making one video and you have to wait very long for the next one. So I'm still working on that, and I'm still working on structuring and organizing things, but the planning is to launch the next video in the next couple of weeks and keep things rolling from there. On to his next question. I'm working on a one-shot, and I know that one-shots usually feature the whole story. However, I figured out a way to show the editor every facet of the story and still end with a cliffhanger. The idea is that the full potential of the manga is shown throughout the one-shot while still leaving some interest as to what will happen next. Is this a good idea, or should I revise my draft and stick to tradition? Well, actually a one-shot, one-shots do not feature the whole story. At least not for a manga that is meant to become series with multiple chapters. What they usually do in one-shots is introducing you to the characters, the setting of the story, and telling where the story is headed. So in perspective, you will get just a small part of the entire story. If you have found a way to show the editor many facets of the story and still end with a cliffhanger, that's great. There are a lot of manga that do it like that and never show the whole story in this one-shot. So let's take some one-shots of first chapters of big manga titles as example, like Naruto, Bleach, or One Piece. We get to know the main character and a big part of his characterizations. We get a good sense and feel of the setting of the story. That means the world where the manga takes place. And we get a good idea of where the story is headed. In other words, what is the story about? Now ending your one-shot with a cliffhanger is a really good idea, but you at least got to have these three things in there. Introducing the main character, the setting, and what the story is about. Now these are pretty crucial, because if you would leave them out, the readers have less to relate to, and ending with a cliffhanger wouldn't change that. Now there are some exceptions, but in general it comes down to these three elements. Let's say if you are making a one-shot about a battle manga and you don't give the character depth or tell nothing about the setting or where the story is headed, and you would end up with a big cliffhanger, the readers won't have enough to hold on to. Maybe the action is great, it contains some badass characters, your art could even be amazing. But when a reader finishes reading a one-shot, you want to leave them with an overwhelming feeling. A feeling not that they want to read the next chapter, but that they need to read it. So I say, sure, ending it with a cliffhanger is a great idea, but I advise you to include at least these three elements. So thank you, Nikhil. Thank you very much for your question. The next question is from Furansu Mangaka, and Furansu Mangaka writes, Hi man, what item can I use to fill large spaces in black? For example, to color the sky at midnight. Please help me. Thanks for the question, Furansu. It doesn't really matter. You can use a big fat marker, you can use whatever, as long as it doesn't bleach and doesn't have too many contrast with the inking of your line art. Because in the end, the pages are going to be scanned and digitally corrected anyway. Most of you that are already scanning their pages probably noticed this, that once you scan your line art, the lines that look black on paper are a bit grayish on screen and not totally black anymore. Also, the white of the paper isn't white anymore, it's more yellowish, and sometimes you will see the paper edges. So after the scanning, you can digitally give the pages more contrast, so the black becomes black and the page is clean white. So it doesn't really matter what you use. When I still work traditionally, what I did after my line art was complete, I would scan my pages and fill the black areas digitally. I used a selection tool and fill it with black. It was a lot faster than filling big areas on paper. It also saves you money instead of buying new markers, and more importantly, you can still correct or change things if you want. If it's possible for you to fill parts digitally, I certainly recommend it. Let's go on to the next question. The next question is from Trevor McIntosh, who writes, "Hey John Musta, it's Trey. How would you conceive an idea for a manga like yours? Something awesome, but full of action and adventure." Thanks Trey for your question. It's never easy to start from nothing, and there isn't a short and simple answer to that question. So I'll do the best I can to give a brief answer. Many may think it's just about having a great idea. But it's not the idea alone that will make or break a good manga. We actually have to look at when is a story a good story. Of course, it's all subjective, but if we ask the majority of an audience what makes a good story, is when we as an audience or reader can relate to the story. So what determines what we can relate to? Is it the setting, the world we as artists create? Could it be powers? Sure. How cool would it be to do Kage Bunshin, right? But the thing we relate to the most is to the characters, because it's the characters that are telling the story. So I would say start with your main character first and ask yourself, what is going to happen in this character's life that's so interesting to tell about? And is it worth asking readers to spend their time, they also could spend on other things, to read your story? The way I did it with I Put a Boy is I started with the character first. It doesn't mean you have to start with the character too. What I'm trying to say is that starting with an original idea is good for the story, but it's not only the idea that keeps it alive. It's also keeping your story interesting. There are story structures for that, which I will try to make videos about. So it won't be just about having a good idea. Maybe the best to explain it is to get my manga I Put a Boy as an example. I Put a Boy started with what I thought was an interesting and original idea. I started with a cool ability, that's having a great sense of hearing, and then I thought of his weakness, and that would be an oversense of hearing. So then I thought of things what he could use or could do to suppress it. Now the use of music and headphone came up. Then I was thinking of getting some more weight to his weakness, and I thought of his apocalyptic world he was in and his dependency of battery power. And from there on, I built the story around him. So what I did was I started with his powers, his abilities, his strength, and his weakness, and from there on, I created the world around him. Now once I got a good feeling about the setting, I went back to the character and gave him more depth. What kind of character is he? What are his beliefs? What are his needs? Then I went back to the setting and adjusted that again. So I kept going back and forward with the character and setting, the global story and the powers. It's like a big puzzle, and it can take a lot of time to get it right. But the most important thing that I found about telling story is not what you are telling, but how you are telling it. Sometimes writers write a piece where the concept isn't all that interesting, but the way they're telling it makes it fresh and alive. So by having an original and interesting idea for a story will help getting it even better. But it's always the way how you are telling it. So great question, Trey. Okay, the next question is from Ibrahim Sadratin, who writes, "Hi, I was wondering how you come up with your plots. Do you have a technique that helps you roughly plan out the main points? And by that I mean something like planning out the ending of an arc and then work backwards and add in story elements that lead up to that ending? Or do they just naturally come to you and you just go with the flow? Anyways, that's my question. Good job with the videos, by the way, considering how busy you are and everything. Nice one. Hi Ibrahim, thank you for this wonderful question. This question nicely adds to the previous question. I don't know if you guys have heard of the inciting incident. It is used in story writing as an essential plot element. The inciting incident is the event that happens to the protagonist where their lives change from a normal day to BAM! Chaos. Now whatever happens to the protagonist, they want to get their lives back in order, change it back to normal. So when the readers experience the inciting incident in the story, we immediately know where the story is about and where it's headed. So by first creating the inciting incident, we will also give you a good direction of where the plot is headed. Now to make a good story, you end it with leaving your reader satisfied. Either it turns out as a good ending or a bad ending, but every fictional writer is obligated to leave their readers satisfied in the end. And readers are more satisfied when the story ends beyond their expectations. So it's our job as writers to twist and turn the plots so they don't see what's coming. So you have the protagonist having their lives in pretty good control, then the inciting incident happens, it spins out of control and doing everything to get it back, and it ends up not getting their lives back exactly as it was, but ending it with more value to the protagonist's life in the end. Stick to these things. Don't make it out of coincidence, but instead build it towards the plot and come up with a creative way to still surprise your readers. There are techniques for that, for creating plots, twists and turns, so I will definitely make videos about the subject. But there isn't a formula that says if you do it this way, it will work, because every story is a unique story and have its own world and plots. But the inciting incident is one technique where you can start for building your plot. Next question is from writer Shrest, who writes, I have a couple, so I'll ask them all here instead of multiple emails. Number 1, what are best ways to get your comic, manga, noticed without advertising like McDonald's? And the second question, getting a comic popular because of its sense of story instead of its almost good art. Can something like that be accomplished to be sold in bookstores? Thank you, writer, for your question. Let me answer your first question first. There are a couple of ways of getting your manga out there. And if you could market as McDonald's, it would be a great thing because they are doing a great job. Everyone knows McDonald's, right? But I think you mean what ways of advertising are there without spending too much money? Well, one way is to join communities. I would start dropping your artwork on the social media channels like DeviantArt, Facebook, Instagram. I think this is one of the fundamentals you should have. It's free, it's easy to share it with anyone, and a lot of people are using it. Then DeviantArt has a lot of manga groups. You can join them and post your work there, and you can ask for feedback on your work. Then there are a lot of websites and forums about manga and making manga. There is mangamagazine.net, where they publish independent manga. There are forums like mangaraters.org. These websites provide the opportunity for you to drop your work and have it commented on by the readers. The thing about getting noticed is you have to be constant with publishing your artwork, especially if you have a manga series and chapters running. Now, when you upload a chapter on a regular basis, let's say weekly, it shows that you are serious about making manga, and it also builds confidence that they can continue reading your story every week or every month. When your artwork looks more professional and Japanese looking, it helps getting noticed a lot faster. The key about getting noticed is you have to build your own network or fan base first. White Manga, with whom I did the interview, is doing a great job with that. He uploads some of his work on YouTube, he organizes tournaments, he's giving good feedback on other art, so people slowly started to notice him, and now he's got a pretty big fan base. So when the day comes, your manga is ready for reading, you have already built up your fan base to notice your work. And another good way is doing commissions. Going to conventions and have a table is also a very good way. So there are many ways of getting your art noticed without spending big bucks. It just takes much effort and time. We manga fans are all over the place. So when you want to reach an audience or demographic, as you will, you also have to get your work all over the place. That's how good marketing works. For your second question, yes, it's possible. Shin-chan is a perfect example. It looks like a children's manga, but its demographic is targeted for a seinen audience, ages generally between 18 and 30. And it's also been in bookstores. However, how good or bad your artwork may look, it must look professional. And with professional, I do not mean it has to look good and very detailed. No, I mean that we as readers can tell when an artist knows what he's doing, when he has control over his craft, when the characters are repeatedly, symmetrically, and anatomically correct, not by human standards, but by the world that is created for them. So yes, your artwork doesn't always necessarily have to be really good, but it remains a fact that good-looking artwork looks more appealing and gets picked up more often. Question number 6 is from GoThanks Hypes, who writes, "Hey HowToBam, I want to become a mangaka. It is my dream and I was wondering if you could tell me how do I get my own work published?" Thanks GoThanks for your question. Like I said in the Prep Yourself video, the best way to publish your work is completing a one-shot. It's about 54 pages, which tells an original story, original concepts, introducing your characters and where the story is headed. Now, a one-shot is something Japanese manga publishers work with, but the majority of the world don't publish manga as the Japanese do it. So if you want to have your manga published with a non-manga publisher, I would try short stories with different styles. That way you can show your diversity in skills. If you want to get published by Viz Media or Shueisha, the publisher in Japan for Shonen Jump, then a one-shot is a standard procedure. Keep in mind that getting published in a Shonen Jump is not something you can easily do. I don't want to burst your bubble here, but most of you probably have been reading a lot of Bakuman. It's an amazing series and very helpful, but it's not as easy as they show you. But what I think the best way for getting your manga published is just start working on it. Like I did with my manga I Put a Boy. I just kept on working on my chapters myself. I showed my work on DeviantArt, on Facebook, mangamagazine.net, some forums, and even fixed my own website, iputaboy.com. I personally like looking for ways to self-publishing my own work. So that's also an option. But you need some good self-employment skills or have to develop them to make it a success. However, just start with your work. Have something to show is what I think the best step is. After you got something finished, then you can decide where and when you want to wave it around. Have you heard of mangamagazine.net? It's a very interesting publishing way for manga artists these days. It's also a good example of how important your network is for your manga. If you haven't heard of mangamagazine.net, let me quickly tell you what it is. It's a website for publishing your manga. They let you keep your own rights, which is great. They have this system where you start as a member, and if you can show that you can update a number of pages on a monthly basis, you become a featured member. Once you can show that you can keep it up for many chapters, then you become a premium member and could be getting paid for your manga. Now I believe the amount depends on your ranking and the number of fans or readers you have, so mangamagazine.net has become a very interesting website for independent manga artists these days. There are also some great manga on there you can read for free, so definitely make sure to check them out. I will also leave a link in the description. Let's move on to the next and final question of this mailbag episode. Question number 7 is from Twilight Lace Dream, who writes, "Great video. I found this to be informative and to make me think about my personal goals as someone who also wants to create and publish manga one day too." He or she is talking about the first video I did, Prep Yourself. "There is something that concerned me for a while. If I really wanted to do this as an actual career, then that would mean being constantly rejected and criticized by others.
It's obviously not easy to get a gig for making a debut and getting super successful with a series, especially since a lot of us live in societies where the styles typically seen in manga are looked down upon. The bias some fans have about original English language manga to be fake manga, and the comic book industry that prefers creators to draw and write about licensed superheroes that were created by those from more or less than a half century ago. Wouldn't that mean that I should probably find another career that would hopefully meet my creative interests, even though it's not related to manga or anything else to Japanese pop culture, while I pursue my dream of publishing my own manga? Would I still be committed to my dream even though I'm doing something else? I would have to get my money somewhere so I can survive, have a roof over my head, and to buy supplies to draw manga after all. Sorry, this is long, but I hope you're able to answer this. Even if you don't, thanks for the video, and I hope you post more up in the future. Good luck with your series.
Thank you very much for this question, Twilight Lace Dreams. It's a question that really hits the mark when it comes to making choices in life. What certainty do we have as manga artists that our manga becomes a well-known big manga title? Here's the dream breaker, Bammers. There is no certainty. I hate to tell you this, but there is no certainty. And I tell you why in a second. The reason why I love this question so much is that it addresses probably all of you that are dreaming of making their own manga. The biggest obstacle we as non-Japanese manga artists have in common is that the majority of manga readers consider our work to be fake manga. We hear things like, you are not a real manga artist. Your work looks too similar to the work of a Bleach or a Naruto. It's not made in Japan. It's not published in Japan, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm not going to debate about what is a real manga and what not, because I hate debating. I've never seen the point of debating. Everyone is entitled to his or her own opinion. And if you really believe that you can only be considered a manga artist if you either come from Japan, live in Japan, be Japanese, or being published there, then that's your opinion. Let me just say this. If you really believe that, then you're an idiot. Then you have kept your blindfold on all this time and do not want to see what's happening around you. There are 4 words to prove that. Shonen Jump Manga Competition. Maybe none of you have considered this, but this competition being held in 2013 was an absolute groundbreaker. Shonen Jump has set things straight for once and for all, for anyone who questions non-Japanese mangaka. But to get back to the question, it remains a fact that the majority still looks down upon non-Japanese manga artists and see them as fake. And that's not because our work is not being truly manga, it's because there isn't an official market for it yet. So for you viewers out there who are creating their own manga project and wanted to become something like a Dragon Balls, a Naruto, a One Piece, Death Note or whatever, do not take your path lightly. Don't just go and think, I love manga, I want to become a mangaka and I'll never quit my dream. Think about it. There are thousands and thousands of Japanese artists spending their whole childhood growing up with anime and manga. It's their culture, they study it, they live it, and only a handful will make it. And we non-Japanese artists have no manga university and only create what we have seen and known from other manga. We have to compete with that. Think about it. By the way, if you want to work for Shonen Jump or want to get published in Japan in another magazine over there, that's not an impossible thing. Just know what you have to do to get there. It's a totally different level. So you'll probably have to work even harder when you want to get published in Japan. I'm sorry if I crushed your dreams, but I think it's necessary. That's what my video Prep Yourself is all about. Knowing what you have to face, and you can prepare for it better, and it allows you to anticipate your path better. So now that I've chewed up your ambition and spat it out, here's the bright side of that coin. The publishing world is changing, and that's where our chances are. I started answering this question by saying, there's no certainty, right? Have you considered why? Because we still have to build it. There's no market for it yet, and I really believe that we can do that. We can do that if we stick together, if we help each other out and understand that we all have one collective goal, and that's building this new global manga world. and share our creativity and great stories with each other. If you open your eyes and know where to look, then you can see that we are on the brink of building it. It's already happening. MangaMagazine.net is one of the front runners right now, and they are doing an heroic and an awesome job in building roads for us to walk on. Saturday AM is also doing the same great job. But the thing is, since it's all pretty new, we have to work harder for it, even if that means having another job on the side. So to answer your question, would you still be committed to your dream even though you're doing something else? Well, that entirely depends on how many guts you have, how many discipline, how big is your dream. I have 2 jobs. I'm creating How to BAM, and I have a baby of 14 months, and I'm still working on I Put a Boy. I do admit it's a real struggle and can be very, very stressful. Also, working on multiple things at the same time divides your attention and therefore also your energy. So it can mean that things will take longer and be much harder to accomplish. But that's the same for many students making their manga. Many of you still have to study and graduate, but still find a way of making manga. But what I learned and what I like to pass on is always have a backup plan. Have it ready, and whatever the plan is, never let your manga project affect it. Balance things out right. You'll probably have to organize and plan things better or work harder than you ever did. That's just the way things are, but it will also make you stronger. Okay, BAMers, that's all the questions I have for you right now. Remember, if you have any questions about making manga, you can send in the questions at any moment to info@howtobam.com. You can find the link in the description. And next week I will be picking some new questions for the next week's episode of Mailbag. That's it for the first Mailbag video. What did you guys think so far of the Mailbag show? Should it continue? Was it helpful? Do you want to see this show on a weekly basis? Let me know by leaving your comment in the comment section. Also, a great way of letting me know that you like this Mailbag video is if you smash that like button. Be a subscriber to this channel if you haven't already. It's a great way of staying updated for the latest videos. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook, just type in Mustiaki. You can also follow How to BAM on Facebook and Twitter, so if you want to stay updated for the latest insights, it's just one button click away. Thank you, BAMers, for watching this video, and keep in mind, it's not only the pen that's mightier than the sword, it is also you overcoming awesomeness. Gambete on your manga. Until next time, Jane.
Click on the screen if you want to check out the first video of How to BAM. Prep yourself if you haven't seen it already. I recommend anyone to watch this video before you start with your manga. In this video we are going to deepen ourselves and take a look on the structures of your goal. I'm gonna give some head-ups, yeah I said it, head-ups, and give a breakdown of what a mangaka really does. If you haven't watched the Head Up State video yet, please do so. In this video I will explain why How to BAM has been absent for almost a year, and I'm announcing another new show called BAMmy. It's a bit similar to the Mailbag show, but instead of answering your questions, you can send in your manga pages and I will be giving you some advice what you can do to make it better. It's also a great way of getting your work noticed by others. So if you want to know what you have to do for that and where to send it to, definitely check out this video. Don't forget to be a subscriber to our channel. It will keep you up to date when new videos will be updated. Thanks again, Jane.